So I thought I'd spend a couple of minutes and talk about a couple of things that were car related. And it's interesting how technology keeps evolving and more companies are starting to get into this EV business. There's a lot more companies that you hear about coming along and saying, we want to get into it. And there was some analyst who said, I don't think any of the companies are going to survive except for maybe Tesla and Ford and Rivian. And I'm like, Rivian just seems like an afterthought to a large degree. So that's kind of a weird one. Ford I get, but Ford I've got something else to talk about in a minute. It's just kind of strange how that all works out. So Ford specifically, their CEO came out and said, hey, he wants to change their paradigm. He wants to shift and start thinking about how to sell cars in a very different way, in sort of the Tesla way, where the only way you can do it is by ordering online or ordering from a showroom. And the only reason you'd ever go into a showroom is maybe to look at a car up close and personal or to take a test drive. And otherwise, you're going to order online. And what that means for you as the consumer is you're going to pay MSRP. There's no way around that. You're going to be paying full price for the car. And you'll have the car that then you can drive, and they'll get it all configured for you. They'll make it specially for you. You're not going to be going to the lot anymore to pick a car they have on the lot. That paradigm is going to shift. And because they're doing it, Tesla is already doing it, the other car companies are sure to follow. Now, Ford is figuring that they can still use their all these facilities where they have these different dealerships to still have some cars that you could test drive, but also to do them for service. But here's the rub. When you think about electric cars, the amount of service that needs to be done to them is actually very small. You have to change the wipers and put wiper fluid in. You have to rotate the tires periodically. You might have to fix the brakes and the calipers, but that's about it. There's not much else you have to do. So it's kind of an interesting thing to think, well, if you've got to do that, and these are things that you could do at home yourself if you really want to. If you're motivated enough, the work is not that hard. It could certainly be done by the individual consumer. So you don't need to have that space anymore where you're going to be servicing cars, because the traditional servicing is no more. So I just find that really interesting that was where he was thinking it was going, because I don't know how that works exactly. How do you get to that point? Now, as far as batteries and the way batteries are working, I find it really interesting that the technology just keeps evolving. There's so many more things happening where everybody's thinking about all these different things they can do with technology and the battery. There's companies and individual organizations and research groups and universities that are looking at how to charge batteries more efficiently. And there was one I was reading about, I believe it was in India, where they were looking at the microscopic level of the way lithium-ion batteries work, and the fact that the plates themselves have little porous spots in them, these metal plates that hold the charge. They have porous spots in them. And if they coat those metal plates with another material, those porous spots are less likely to hold a charge that can't discharge the same way. And that's where the lithium is really important, because it helps draw it out of those porous spots, basically. So by changing the paradigm and putting a new coating on there, you may be able to move to solid-state batteries, where in fact you don't need the lithium ion anymore to coax the electrons to flow between the two, the anode and the cathode. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, just the thought that goes into this and the technology that's coming along as a result of this, it's kind of cool what's happening. Oh, it's about to start raining, so I'm going to hop in the car and finish this. South Florida weather is really something. It suddenly just started raining. It was overcast and it looked like it was going to rain, but all of a sudden it just started raining. So there you go. Anyway, kind of continuing on my thought process, one of the other things that's happening along the way is you hear about all these different pieces of legislation aimed at saving the car industry or whatever. Politicians are funny. They often support those people who are bankrolling them. The people who are engaged with them and providing money to their political coffers are often the ones they support. So a lot of the discussions that happen are about these very specific things with the car companies and trying to protect the car industry in some way, whatever that may be. So I saw something kind of interesting. You've heard this story for a while that, car companies have to have a dealership, or they have to have this, or they have to have that, because they try to put up all these barriers to make sure that these car manufacturers are protected in whatever way is appropriate. And it's weird because there's always these discussions about, should they have a dealership? Should they be required to do this, do that? And, these are cars. These are, devices that get you from point A to point B. And, we're changing the paradigm on how cars work and whatever. So there was a story that came out a couple of weeks ago that North Carolina wants to make it illegal to provide free charging. And I kind of went, that's an interesting thing to do. And the media reacted to it in a predictably media way, saying, oh, this could be the death knell of the industry. The hyperbole is not lost on me. But when I thought about it for a minute, I'm like, okay, so typically free charging is charging that would be at a level 2 charger, and it's often offered by a business or some sort of group that allows for some sort of charging that encourages people to come in. So whether it's at a business that's allowing you, that you work at, that's allowing you to charge, or whether it's a business that's encouraging you to come in, like say a shop or a restaurant that says, hey, charge up here while you're in the restaurant. Those are typically the kinds of charging that you get at a free charging level like that. And it's level 2 charging, which means to get anything appreciable in a charge is going to take hours. So, you know, at the small kilowatt hours that it's charging, it's like charging at home, right? When you have a level 2 charger, it takes me about 6 hours to get a full charge on my battery. So I'm not going to go to a store or a restaurant for 6 hours, so I'm not going to get a meaningful charge. I'm going to add some miles, no question, and it's nice to be able to use that. But the thing that I learned over time is, while at first I was like, oh, I'll always use these because they're great and they're free, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm saving the 30 cents on charging, or the dollar or whatever it is on charging that I can charge at home. And it's inconvenient. Maybe I'm in the grocery store or whatever anyway, but I'm only in there for a half an hour, so I'm not getting anything meaningful in my charge. So it's really not worth it. And I think that, you know, when you talk about doing away with free charging, you're effectively eliminating that. Now, from a business perspective, a lot of businesses offer free charging to their employees, but I don't know how you would do away with that. And how do you deal with individuals that offer people an opportunity to charge in their space? Like I said, it costs me $6 to charge up my car completely from empty to full, get the battery completely charged at home. That's it. So I could theoretically open my charging spot up at home. I have a neighbor who had a friend who was driving an electric car to come and visit him. He didn't have a charging setup at his home. And I'm like, look, if he wants to charge at my house to save himself some effort, he's welcome to. It's not a big deal. So, you know, I'm like, but I'm offering free charging. Would that be illegal under the law? Now, the thing is that it's a weird sort of mix of things that happen. So most of these places, they offer the free charging, but you have to sign up with an app anyway. So these apps require you to have some sort of registration that goes on. So what if instead of free charging, they charged you, let's say, a penny to charge for as long as you want, but they had a promotional offer that the penny is waived, or they only collect it if you get up to $1's worth. That's the only time they ever collect the money. They don't do it for anything less than $1. So in effect, it's paid for, but it's free. What's the difference, right? So it's this weird sort of thing. Now, anything at level 3 or any other way, you have to pay for it. Now, what about the people who were early adopters to Tesla who got lifetime free charging at level 3 charging? They can pull up to a Tesla supercharger and they can charge for free because it's included in their package. They paid for it, essentially, and it was a perk of buying the car and being an early adopter. What happens to them? Are they included in this? Are they not included in this? How does that work? It's weird how sometimes laws have these weird ways of working out, and sometimes people come up with these laws, and there'll be unintended consequences that go along with it. So it's kind of a strange thing when you think about it. How does that work exactly? And where does it go from here? It's just weird. And so you keep hearing about laws, and you go, well, they want to do what? How's that going to work exactly? How will they make that work? It just doesn't make sense sometimes. In the charging space, there was one other thing that I noticed, and it was a story about these trains that are electric trains now. They're starting to make trains, instead of being diesel powered, they want to make them to be electric. Now at this point, they don't have the power to be able to pull many cars, but that will change. And of course, it's all about momentum. You can start pulling 1 or 2 cars, and then you drag the rest of the cars, and once you've got your momentum going, it's easy to continue to pull them. In any case, to get started takes an amount of power. But they're working on the technology to evolve that and actually make bigger batteries, bigger engines that can actually power a train. And the cool part about trains is, because trains are always moving, you can always be using regenerative braking, because you're going to slow down and speed up over different courses of the grades and things that you're doing in the train. And you can use that regenerative braking in the train itself, because you're slowing down the train, to recharge the battery. And it's very, very efficient. And because of the speed and the power the train uses, you can actually not have to charge the train as you're going over long distances. I'm like, dude, I mean, you know, the efficiency you get out of these things is just incredible. The fact that it goes to this level is just amazing to me. And the fact that people have thought this through and have figured out how to make it work, I'm just fascinated by. So I keep reading these stories, and I keep thinking about all these things that happen, and I go, it's just really, really cool, because there's so much that's happening in the space of what we're doing in the battery life and working on all these different technologies to make this better and more efficient. So really, really amazing. And I find it really cool that that technology keeps evolving. And I just wanted to share a couple of these stories with you because I think it's just really, really cool. So again, if you guys have any questions about the cars, charging, anything else you'd like to know about the Tesla, I'd be happy to answer your questions. Just go ahead and post it below in the comments, and I'm happy to talk to you. Hey, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.